Hello, and welcome back once again to Mad Mouse Games. So today we're going to be painting Reaper Bone's Thing in the Well, which comes with this awesome little well here that I'm painting. I just gave it a quick dark gray paint that I put on there, which while that was drying, I started on the base coats for this, which is the inside of the well and is the actual thing in the well. Now, with this miniature, I kind of had a vision of what I wanted before I started, and so one of the things I really wanted to do was make it look slimy and wet and like it had just coming out of like the sewers or something like that, and just make it look really um, slimy and gross and in the end, it ended up coming out really well, I think. So, one thing I'm doing here is just putting the base coats on. I really wanted this purple coat to kind of be the base for the tentacles, the inside of the tentacles, and for the big brain thing that's kind of in the middle. I knew I was going to add a lot of highlights to this, and so I wanted kind of a darker recessed color. Um, and so I chose purple because I was going to do some pink and red highlights on the brain. Here you can see me coming back to the well, just giving it a quick dry brushing with a lighter gray to make the stones really pop out, and then I made a wash, which I also apply here really quickly along the sides to really sink into those recesses and make the dry brushing really pop on it. And so the well itself probably took 2 minutes to paint, and the rest of it took quite a while. So here I'm doing the backside of the tentacles with a blue. It's kind of a grayer blue, which is a little bright right now. The whole miniature right now is going to be brighter than it will be in the end thanks to the washing. That's one thing to always keep in mind when you paint your miniatures is that eventually they will get darker due to the washes. And so another thing about this miniature was I was just slapping these base coats down, trying to get them down as quick as possible because there's a lot of surface area on this miniature. I wasn't too worried about picking out the details at this point because I just wanted the base coats so I could wash it and then start picking out those details. And so again, I wanted this to look really slimy and gross, like it came out of the sewers, so I decided to put it in some green water, which honestly was really bright. Again, everything on the miniature right now is a lot brighter than it will be in the end. And so after just a lot of base coating, I made a mistake, made a big mistake. I decided to start trying to pick out details too early. So here you can see me dry brushing kind of a lighter pink onto the purple, which was kind of nice later because I could see what I had already done as a pink color to pick out later. But looking back on it, I probably wouldn't have done this step. Probably would have just gone straight into the wash at this point. I also started trying to pick out a lot of these circles, the suckers on the tentacles, um, and I definitely wouldn't do that again. I would just definitely wash it at this point. Get the whole miniature, just a nice base coat. It didn't even have to be that thick because I was going to come through, pick out a lot of these details later. Um, and you'll see me pick out these suckers. I think, let me see, I did it like 2 or 3 different times. I went through and painted every single little sucker. And this is definitely one of the times I wouldn't have. I would have just washed it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So I finally got around to the wash, put it all on there. I just used a big, huge brush, brushed it up like crazy because I knew I was going to come through, pick out a lot of those details later. And I really wanted it to seep into the recesses in that brain, in the suckers. And the wash really is I think what made the difference in this miniature. The details definitely help, but the wash makes it so easy to see the different details and what's raised and what's not. And so now I'm getting into the detailing. I'm going to go ahead and paint all the tentacles that are next to the suckers purple. Then I'll go back in and paint the inside of the suckers black, and then come back out and pick out all those details on the suckers themselves and make them nice and pink so they stand out against that purple. Um, After that, I pick out some of the brain details, some of the higher regions, I make them a nice pink, and then the darker regions, or the more sunken in regions, I make them kind of a red color, which ended up looking pretty good in the end. Um, so then a little bit later, because all these little suckers, most of them have the like a single tooth that comes out of them for grabbing prey and things like that, which I think is really cool. And I'll come back, I'll talk a little bit about how I picked those out later, but for now, we'll just go ahead and let you enjoy watching me paint this and pick out the details, and we'll catch up back when we talk about the teeth in a little bit. Alright, so with these teeth, I started by painting them all kind of this browner color. It's not super brown, it's more like a tannish brown, but just so it looks kind of like a dirty tooth. And then I went back and I painted it with white. And I tried to get a really good video of me just doing it nice and slow so you could see how I did it. And I didn't get a very good one, but this is the basic idea is you hit a little piece of it with your brush, move over a little bit and hit a different piece with your brush, leaving kind of a little triangle left that looks like it's pointy. Now, this works in two ways. For one, it makes the tooth look pointier than it might actually be, because they are rounded off on the end, they're not super sharp, and part of that is probably because it's a softer plastic miniature. But if you can get it just right, because you start with the brown all the way, then you'll paint it with a slightly off-color white in this kind of a fashion where you just pick it out, you run the brush along, and then I went back and I put just a little dab of white at the tip of the tooth. Now this kind of makes it look like these teeth are old and that they are definitely aged, because the base of them are a nasty brown color and it gets whiter the further up the tooth it goes. And this gives really a cool illusion that these teeth are more than they actually are. This was a lot of detailing to do. It probably took not the longest of all the things, but it did take quite a while to do. But I thought it turned out looking really, really good, and really bringing a lot of depth to this monster. And I think just little details like that can really make all the difference, with these kind of things. Now, here you can see I use a gloss varnish on this entire creature because right now it doesn't look that wet and nasty and like it's just bust out of the sewers. But after you give it a nice gloss varnish on there, this thing looks amazing. And I just used a nice big brush for this. Again, on a big miniature like this, don't be afraid to use your big brushes, especially in base coating and in your final varnish, because it will make it go so much faster. I think total my base coat might have taken like 45 minutes to put on everything, and that's including me picking out all the details, which I shouldn't have done. And most of this miniature was just putting on all these details and trying to make it nice and gross looking. So this is the finished miniature. Um, you can see just how the light is reflecting off of it and how wet and gross it looks in there, which is awesome. I mean, this is almost exactly what I envisioned when I went to paint this miniature. And I think having a good vision of what you want to paint can make a huge difference. Sometimes I just fly by the seat of my pants and I'm like, "Oh, let's put this here and this here," but having a clear vision of what you want makes your painting, one, go faster because you don't have to make any decisions in the moment, but two, it can really bring the whole thing together because you know what you want out of it. And so, in the end, this miniature ended up looking really good. I'm excited to put it on the table in front of my players, and I might even show a bit of that in a future video. I'll show, my players, their reaction to this miniature, and that way you can kind of see, I really think painting miniatures is worth it. It's fun, it's enjoyable, and I highly recommend it to everyone. And again, I just want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and we'll see you in the future.